Strong Dads wants to thank Quality Auto Mart for joining us as a sponsor. Quality Auto Mart was born in 1985. They are owned and operated by Mark and Nancy Repke. Quality Auto Mart provides all the services, repairs, and maintenance for your vehicle's needs with a 3-year auto parts and labor warranty. They offer complimentary vehicle safety inspection and estimates. Also, they offer a shuttle service, and the 4th oil change is always on them. They are located at 7307 on State Road 46 in Batesville, Indiana. Make sure you give them a call at 812-934-2301.
Welcome to Strong Dads. This is Merle Hutchinson with Kyle Crawford. Are you done yawning?
Let's go.
I'm ready?
I'm ready.
Good
Live
Lord.
action.
I mean, we had about a 5-minute yawn delay before we hit the go button here. Good deal. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm on EDO this week. I'm enjoying life. My honey-do list has gotten really big, and so I'm getting after it in the shop.
Yeah. Well, I see you brought my table saw back, so that must mean you've got a new toy at your shop.
I got a new toy. Guys, yeah. I'm telling you what.
Oh, man.
Got me a new saw. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, this is one of the... can we do an advertisement for him? I don't know.
Saw Stop, if you'd like to sponsor Strong Dads.
I always want to say Stop Saw. It's Saw Stop.
Saw Stop. Yep, I got a Saw Stop. It's the one, if you touch it, it shuts the whole thing down.
So we're actually thinking like maybe we'll experiment with, our kids and stuff.
Yeah,
like, come on over here, little buddy.
Yeah. We don't encourage spanking. We encourage you to tell your kid to put their hand on the table saw when they misbehave.
We are joking.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Don't even run with that one. I can't believe they actually talk about real Strong Dads.
See,
yeah.
there we go. I can't run for president.
I know,
they'll play that one back. Advertisement.
Yeah, that
Kyle
was gonna
Crawford
haunt
is
you.
evil.
He puts little kids' fingers in table saws. That's sick. You're a sick man.
I know.
All right. So, got a question, right?
Oh, boy.
Are you winning? Are you winning in your life? We've asked that question before. You know that? I don't know how many episodes ago, but are you winning?
I feel like this is like a what are those TED Talks?
Yeah.
Are you winning in your life?
Are you winning? Would you like to win? No, I'd choose losing every day.
Well, I'm not sure what the point of this question is, but I think I'm winning. I'm a winner.
You're a winner. Yeah. All right. So the direction we're going today is actually one that I get to confront quite a bit, or maybe it confronts me. I don't know. In the work that we do at Rock Solid Families, and it's based off of uncertainty and confusion. Primarily men and women, obviously, but men, strong dads coming in, and they're not in a good place in life. They're getting into maybe some anger, depression, anxiety. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Everything from the marriage to the kids to the job, and so they get into this place of uncertainty, and they'll even feel like I'll hear phrases like, I don't think I'm doing anything good. I don't think I'm doing anything right. And so the question is like, so do you feel like you're winning or losing? Oh, I'm right now, I think I'm losing. Okay. And so we're going to talk about like, well, what's behind the winning and the losing? What's behind this? Because if you're not experiencing this, let me tell you, you will. Yeah. It is part of life. It's part of the travel of life. And I use the word travel for a reason, because we're going to go back to an analogy that we used in our transgender discussion that we had. I think that was episode like 193 or something.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's where we're going today.
Yep.
And I know you and I have talked about some of the confusions you have. I have them, and they don't clear up typically unless you're actively thinking how you're going to help clear them up.
Yep. Yeah, I think it'll be a good show. We're going to get after it and hopefully kind of explore this idea of hopefully getting rid of some of that confusion. And if you're in the midst of some confusing, hopefully get some good takeaways for kind of getting out of it. So before we jump into the rest of the show, we will want to thank our sponsors. So Strong Dads, we would love to thank Quality Auto Mart for coming alongside of us, an awesome sponsor for us. Check them out. Automotive needs, got an awesome facility. They will definitely take care of you. So check out Quality Auto Mart, and thanks so much for being a sponsor.
All right. I also want to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions for being a sponsor of the Strong Dads podcast. So for all your landscape needs or any home decor, please check out Casey's Outdoor Solutions located outside of Lawrenceburg, Indiana. would you look at you? I mean, would you look at me?
We're winning.
We
here.
actually
we're winning.
synced up.
Oh no.
We don't call or anything, and so 99% of the time we have no clue what anyone's going to wear.
And
here.
look, happy haircut. See,
yeah,
we both got haircuts.
And check it out. I got my wig busted. We're on.
We're looking good today. This is a good show about winning here. See, we're doing it.
We're actually maybe look like a team.
I like it. This idea, Merle. Getting to the show. This idea of this idea of winning and trying to eliminate some of that confusion, which I think most men would agree that no one wakes up in the day and says, I'm going to lose today. No man is going to get married and say, man, I hope my marriage is a losing marriage. No man is going to want to, raise kids and have losers for kids. Right. I think I would hope, collectively that we all as strong dads, as strong men can come together and realize this, the idea of winning and eliminating confusion. It's got to be something that needs to be strived for and kind of have that as the focal point that you want to be a winner, that you want to get rid of some of this confusion in your life. But then obviously I think it's just the nature of who we are, the nature of being, a human being, that there is confusion that does happen. And so, trying to work through that and wrestle through that, I think is something that we need to talk about.
Yeah. I think part of the direction we want to go to as well is a persistence or consistency in that losing sight. Like, man, it seems like day after day, like, because we oftentimes, everybody has a bad day,
sure,
right? I mean, and so, but when you're in a place in your life where you feel like, I just feel like I've been struggling for some time, the last season or a quarter or year or two, whatever, like, and the reason why that's important to address is a sustained state of confusion is the onset of depression.
Recipe?
Yeah, it is the recipe. And so there are different forms of depression that people experience, and some of them are very much biological. And, it's like the DNA has got it wired in you that you're not stabilizing well. It's part of the personality. You're not able to regulate a lot of different things in terms of emotions. But most of the time, depression has got a lot of factors involved.
Sure.
It's got biology. It's got environment. Okay. It's just got a lot of different things that are involved in how your brain's working through the psychology of it. So, one component that we're talking about today is what is your winning or losing doing to how depressed you might feel. Yeah. So, and the definition of clinical depression is a persistence of low mood or low energy and no longer feeling a joy or excitement or energy for things that you used to enjoy. So prior to recording, we were talking about golf, and how much you just absolutely love golf. And, one way that you could potentially look at someone like yourself is, if the day comes where you're like, not even golf seems even interesting to me anymore. Like the thought of going out there is just, no, I'm not even thinking about it. So like that, again, I'm not saying that's depression, but those are the kinds of things that people start to experience. Yeah.
And that idea of persistence that you're talking about. So in the fire world right now, there's a big movement on this PTSD. Right. And this post-traumatic stress disorder. And they just exactly what you're talking about, the persistence of it. So there's two different categories that fall underneath that. And it's in all of our firehouses. It's saying, is there a post-traumatic stress, or is there post-traumatic stress disorder? So, and it all comes down to the persistence. So is there confusion in your life? Maybe.
Right.
But then is there confusion that's a long-term, that's turning from days to weeks to months? And I'm sure you've heard this saying before, this comment from guys before, same shit, different day. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's just that mindset of getting stuck in a way where it's just this persistence, where it's just this constant confusion that you're having day in and day out, to where it does turn into what we're talking about, this idea of having depression. I know you've spoken on, we've done whole shows on depression and just what that looks like. And just like you were talking about with the DNA, that there's certain things that just the chemical imbalance that's going on that plays a part into it. But I think for this show, really just kind of, we're going to stick with the kind of the long-term confusion and how that really plays a big big part in the whole idea of depression.
Yeah, yeah. So, like we just talked a little bit ago, we did the show on transgenderism. The confusion of transgenderism is killing our youth. And again, there can be some kickback from that. But we're just asking you to really understand that I could substitute transgenderism for anything in life that would confuse us, okay? And we could find ourselves setting ourselves up for more depression, more anxiety. Confusion is the difficulty. Something I was thinking about the other day is let's just say back in the 20s or the 30s, the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, men had fewer choices, but they were more set on what you're going to do. Well, you're either going to go work in the factory, or you're going to go be a farmer, or you might be able to go to school. Like, you get three choices, okay? And that might seem so restricting to us, but because it's just so, wow, like, I'm pretty good with my hands, so it looks like I'm going to be a mechanic, right? And so you didn't get all confused by a lot of different choices. You just said, well, I'm made to be a mechanic. This is the path I get. So it actually, many of those people back in that era, now I'm not saying depression didn't exist, but we know we're at an all-time high of depression in the culture. And it is because we have so much opportunity for choices, but that means more confusion.
Yeah.
All right. And so you can sit at the intersection. We talked about in the the transgender talk about, I can sit at the four-way stop and go, well, left, right, straight. What should I do? You're not at four-way stops anymore. We're at like 100-way stops.
Yeah.
Okay. And that in itself has just blown us away with confusion.
Yeah.
And so we got some heavy work to do. But that's what we want to talk about a little bit today. Like, okay, so what can we do? What can we do? So you drive a fire truck.
Yeah. Yep.
And you drive a fire truck in the city.
Yep.
In the city of Dayton, Ohio.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine, because I've never done that. All right. I don't even like city driving to be, I don't like city driving to begin with.
Right.
But all of a sudden you have, the alarm goes off. You are told it's such and such address.
Yeah.
Tell me, like, what happens to the brain of a fire truck driver?
Well, being that I work for the city of Dayton and I live in Cincinnati, sometimes I use it as an excuse, and now I'm almost been in the city for almost 10 years now. So I'm learning all the streets, but just put yourself in a foreign city that you don't, basically the only time I ever go to the city of Dayton is to go to work. So I start off the bat, I'm at a little bit of disadvantage because I don't know these streets before I started working there. So yeah, so I mean, where I work at, I'm on the west side of the city, but we go into the downtown area quite a bit. The suburbs, we don't venture out too much into the suburbs, but kind of the outskirts of the actual city, which is where one of my firehouses that I work at is. And yeah, I mean, the run comes out, we get banged out for a structure fire, and it's just like, everybody is amplified, right? Everyone's stresses are amplified, and you as the driver, it is your responsibility to get your guys there safe, but also quickly. Yeah. And part of that quickly is we can't just blow through intersections. We can't just drive, 100 miles an hour. Part of getting there quickly as the driver is knowing the fastest route, knowing the route that needs to be taken in order to get there. So, it'll come out on my phone, and I'm fortunate, to work in a time where I have the GPS pulled up my phone. But a lot of house officers do not want you to just look at your phone turn by turn directions for obvious reasons, right? We need to be paying attention to the road and other drivers. So I'll see where we're going to go, and I'll go. We have this massive map that is in what we call our watch office. So we have this massive map that's in our firehouse, and I will go to that, and I will actually get my turn by turn direction. I'll know, okay, that, Euclid is the third street after the light that I know. So try and get landmarks. We're really big on landmarks. So I know that there's a Kroger's at this spot, and 2 streets past that Kroger's is where I need to turn. So that way I know I can drive the certain speed to get to that Kroger's. Once I get to that Kroger's, then I can start to slow down a little bit because I know I'm getting ready to make that turn. So it's very stressful as an operator because you're in charge of that vehicle, right? And it is your responsibility to get the guys to the fire and to the, get back home safe, because in the fire world, we there's about 100 firemen that die every single year from all different causes. And one of the leading causes is auto accidents.
Right. Yeah.
It's guys getting to and from, the fires or the EMS call and then coming back to the firehouse. So it is a cause of death in the fire service. So there's a great deal of stress that is placed on the operator and the driver to get there and to get there quickly.
Yeah. So let's look at that whole scenario. And that is, we have a location, we have a route, but something that we talked about in the analogy in the transgender show was the 4-way stop. And now people are starting, I don't know where to go, what direction to go. And I start to hear noises behind me, and I look in my rearview mirror and I'm seeing and hearing people beeping. Yeah. Okay. And so we go from confusion. And if I add a little bit of pressure on confusion, I get anxiety.
Yep.
So confusion under pressure is anxiety. Okay. And so now I'm thinking of you guys. You have all kinds of built-in pressure. Your travel is time sensitive, right? Like if I just said, get to that structure fire in the next 3 days, you'd be like, okay. Yeah. But you're supposed to get there like immediately.
Now,
Yeah. And then there's all kinds of other pressure situations. You're watching for other cars, people, traffic jams, whatever it is. And so this is a recipe for major panic and anxiety.
Yep.
Okay. So just a little something about how the brain works. We've talked before in shows. Think of your brain. I like to think of it on a spectrum. Some people talk about it like being built up from bottom to top. But I kind of think of the spectrum like, okay, there's my logical side of my brain and there's the emotional side of my brain. But we like to operate somewhere there in the middle. Like 100% logical brain is like being married to a robot, a computer, and it's just not a lot of fun, okay?
Yeah.
It's logically correct,
sure,
right? But the other parts of life aren't there. Then there's the emotional side, and the extreme emotional side is all about feeling. All about whatever the body's experiencing. That's a very primitive side, okay? The two do not meet or function at the same time, okay?
Yeah.
In other words, for the thinking side of the brain to operate, the emotional side actually has to be shut down. The energy goes to the outer cortex of the brain, and that's where problem solving can take place. But if I am fully stimulated on the deeper inner side, okay, the hypothalamus, the limbic system, this is a very primitive part of the brain that just allows you to experience the environment around you, then it will rule over for survival's sake. Right?
Yeah.
Fight or flight. Like, I don't have time to think. I just got to go. And so that's what's happening. But fight or flight or freeze even, those mechanisms, they take over, but they are very hormonally driven. Okay? Because these hormones of cortisol and of testosterone and of adrenaline, those are the kind of the instant surge that I need to get me through that. A prolonged state of that. Prolonged state of adrenaline flowing through my veins, okay, of cortisol pumping through my body, creates major adverse reactions. Okay, and these are the sustained depressions that start to actually biologically shut your body down. Okay, because you can't sustain this for long. All right, and so that's why first responders and military oftentimes suffer more from these depressive disorders. Okay. Because they're running at a high level of pressure sensitive stuff, which has got that anxiety wrapped up. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. And as you're talking, I was just kind of going back to me and the fire truck driving. I can't tell you the number of times. So I think the vast majority of people know that when you hear sirens, you're supposed to go to the right? You see lights, go right. That's kind of the thing they teach in driver school. And it is crazy that when a fire truck is coming barreling down right behind you and the air horns are going and the sirens are going, the amount of people that allow their emotions and their stress of that fire truck directly behind them dictate and completely negate any logic when it comes. So we'll see people, they'll turn for a second to go left, and all of a sudden, I think in their mind, they're like, okay, I need to go right. So then they'll jerk the wheel right real fast, and then they're like, screw it. So then they just stop.
All right.
And that's the worst.
Fight, flight, freeze.
Because you're like, get out of my way. I don't care what you have to do. And so it is that exactly what you were talking about. That is just like your emotions just take over, and it completely negates all logic that's going on in your brain when you're in this confusion state of what do I do? The worst is when it's like it's a red light for them, and we're barreling through, and we're trying to get through this intersection, right? And there's a procedure we have to follow in order to get to an intersection. We have to actually stop, make eye contact with everybody there, and the person that's directly in front of us are like, it's red for me, I can't go, but this person's trying to get through. So it's just this massive confusion because of the high stress environment that is a fire truck directly behind you blowing our air horn because we're trying to get somewhere, and it's going back to what we were talking about with that 4 intersection where you have someone behind you, they're hitting their horn, they're like, come on, dude, make a decision, right? You got your turn signal, you're like, I think I want to go left, and all of a sudden you're like, no, wait a second, I need to go right. And it's just trying to make that decision, which we talked about in that previous show.
It gets really tough.
It gets really tough.
It gets tough. So, again, we're using the analogy there of the driving because this is maybe a microcosm of what happens in all of us walking through daily life, okay? And, Scripture talks about don't worry about tomorrow because today has enough problems of its own, enough troubles of its own. And the idea here is, if I get all caught up and all of the big stuff that's out there, just driving through the city, even if I have no pressing issues, just dealing with the traffic is enough to stress anybody out. I mean, like I could have, I'm just taking a Sunday drive through downtown. That in itself could be stressful. Yeah. Okay. And so we got enough to worry about. So, all right, let's move this into how do we help us guys when we are struggling in life with a lot of confusion? I don't know about my job. I don't know about my marriage. I don't know about my kids. I don't know about money, all of these different things, whatever it is, that confusion, like how do we start to sort this out? Okay. And you've mentioned some things already that are key factors. In your firehouse, you have a big map. Massive. Okay. And you have warning signs within your truck, warning tools, there's lots of things. We have these within ourselves. And if you recognize them, you can help yourself get regulated, calm down, and get back to thinking and problem solving. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Yep.
So yeah, I mean, as we, again, I think the just what you're saying, Merle, the 4-way intersection, although we may be overusing it, but I think there's a lot of related, it's very easy to relate that to going on in our, what's going on in our life. So as we talk about this, so again, for me, I know every day I show up to work, those runs are going to happen. For you in your life, there's going to be the times where you're going to be stuck in a position where it's uncomfortable, where there's going to be a lot of stress, where your job is kicking your butt, where your marriage is kicking your butt. So it's very naive to think that those aren't going to happen. So again, part of hopefully working through this idea of confusion is we have to have a game plan. And I think a great place to start is knowing that those are going to happen. Those stresses in your life are going to be there. So we have to come up with a game plan in order to, counteract that. So the first thing, similar to what I was talking about, is having a map in your life.
Yeah.
Having some sort of a vision, knowing your turn-by-turn direction. Again, even if you do know those turn-by-turn directions, even if you do know the vision that you're going to have to work through the confusion, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be other confusion. There's a lot of other drivers on the road that are going to react or act in a certain way that you also need to, again, know that those stressors are going to happen in your life and be ready to counteract those. So yeah, the first thing is having a map, having a vision for what you want, knowing that those stressors are going to happen, knowing that those are going to happen. Let's have a vision put in place.
Yeah. So that's the number one thing. You have to have a destination, and then you have to know the means of travel to it, at least your means. And you need to hear us what we're talking about here. Even if you don't know if it's exactly right, if you want to make your day-to-day better, get a destination for that day, okay? And so maybe you might be choosing to do a certain things this day, and you're like, Well, but ultimately, that's not where I want to be. Well, you need to start to just get it figured out as to where you're going to be that day. Okay.
Mm,
Um, it also means that it's not the end of your travel. Maybe you say, I want to be a fireman, and you finally become a fireman, and you go, it's not what I want it to be. It doesn't mean you have to be done traveling.
mm,
Okay, you go from that firehouse to, you know what? I'd like to go back to nursing school. I'd like to go back and
yeah.
be an engineer. So it just gives you a way to operate in the time that you are in. And so don't get all trapped with the idea of, I need to know my final destination. Your
Mm,
final destination, breaking news, is in the grave. Okay.
mm,
And so you're going to have multiple destinations. Get the one that you need to get you through that day. So what is your destination? And then what is your roadmap for that day? Okay. And if you feel convicted enough, you can put your destination farther out there. No, 5 years from now, this is where I want to be. Great, man. That gives you great clarity, allows you to get through a lot of those intersections. But if you're at a point where you're like, I'm completely confused, then you get a destination for the day.
yep. With that, Merle, I was just again think about the driving. This is something that you're gonna probably need someone to help you along the road. But at the end of the day, this has to be your decision. I can't tell you the number of times where I'll have a company officer say, "Hey, I think you should turn here," and if I do, man, it adds so much confusion to it. It's like I have my map, I have my vision, my route that I want to take in my mind, and if you tell me to veer off that to go a different way, I might be able to figure it out, right? But it also adds that extra set of confusion. So by no means am I saying you shouldn't ask for assistance, but what I'm saying at the end of the day, it has to be your final decision. It has to be your
Yep.
roadmap going forward. So
Your destination.
You can't use someone else's roadmap in order to try and find
That's
your
right.
destination.
Yeah. That's a great point. The next area is understanding how you're using your daily energy. We talked before about the idea of how difficult it is for you to drive that truck through that traffic. Okay. If you have to drive that truck through that traffic and you have no idea where you're going, you're going to be spending energy in thinking, problem solving. I don't know. Where should I go? Where should I go? Where should I go?
Right.
We want that part already cleared off so that I know where I'm going, so that your energy can be doing in the actual work of the day. All right, hear what I'm saying. We got to be set on knowing what we're going to do. And that way we're going to save our energy for our actual drive. Like now I'm going to practice driving well. I'm going to be a good driver. I'm going to understand how to react. I'm not going to lose my mind in traffic. Like all of these different things, I'm going to actually do the actual work of driving. I'm going to do well because I don't have to spend all of this time with the distraction of where am I going? Okay. And so I can focus on the drive rather than the thinking about where I'm going.
I'm going to reluctantly admit this, Merle. So a couple of years ago, I was driving and we were heading to a run, and I had a general idea where I was going. I wasn't 100% right, and all of a sudden I saw another fire truck with lights and sirens going, and I was like, oh well, they got to be going the right way, right? Well, they were going to another run. They were not going to the run that I was going to, and I think it's exactly what you're talking about. It's just like you get caught up, and it's like I'm not 100% sure where I'm going, and then all of a sudden this big shiny red object comes driving by, and you're like, I'll just follow them. They probably know where they're going, right?
Yeah.
And man, it's just like I wasted energy, I wasted fuel, right, going to this other run when I should be going to the complete other run. I think it's exactly what you're talking about, just wasting that energy versus actually knowing in your mind the direction that you're trying to go.
Yeah. All right. Here's the third point. All right. The third point, and we've talked about this with parenting, but this goes right back to us men. And if we don't understand how to do this, we can get ourselves into a deep trench of energy being expelled and expended out and leaves us depressed. And this is recognizing your built-in fire alarms. I call them fire alarms, okay? And so your built-in fire alarms, this is the alarm that your body and mind give you that says that you are not feeling comfortable in a given situation. Okay. So they are things like your heart. I notice my heart beating harder. I notice my face is going red. I notice I'm getting very agitated. I'm noticing that I'm not able to engage well with people. These are all emotional responses. Emotional responses are telling you that you've got an alarm going off. And so when I see somebody with road rage, I know, wow, they've got alarms going off. Okay. Now, knowing the alarm is not enough. So your alarms are different than mine. Okay.
Sure.
Based off of how we're wired, our genetics. Okay. Once I know my alarm, I better get a drill that's associated with that particular alarm. Okay. So we talk in the schools all the time. There's a fire drill or a fire alarm. There's a tornado alarm, tornado drill. All right. There's an earthquake alarm, earthquake drill. All right.
Yeah.
There's an intruder alarm and drill. Why don't we just say, well, let's just use one alarm and one drill? Well, they don't all get fixed the same way.
Right.
The last thing you want to do on a tornado drill is go outside like you would in a fire drill.
Yeah.
Okay. And that one's not going to work. All right. So what I have to recognize first is my emotions, because remember, when I'm emotionally charged, I've lost my ability to problem solve. I've lost it. All right. And so now I'm going to be reacting. And that is a stressful place to be. Lots of hormones, lots of cortisol, adrenaline. These things are starting to surge. Okay. So how do I get through that? I practice drills. You have told me so many times, what is the very first thing you do when you go to work with your clothing?
I get my fire gear set up exactly how I want it, because I remember in rookie school, I remember going through fire training. You practice putting your gear on every single day.
Yep.
For when the bells go off, you have to get your gear on fast. We say all the time, we're trying to buy back seconds, right? And a way we can buy back seconds is to get your gear on fast. We also use the slogan as smooth as fast and fast as smooth, right? So if I'm just erratic about it, I'm just throwing stuff on. It's not doing me any good if it's not put on correctly. So first day of rookie school, you're going to go through, we call it a 2-minute drill. You have to be able to get all your gear on in 2 minutes, right? And we do this relentless. So we do this over and over. We do these fire drills to make sure that when the real thing is happening, I'm ready to go. I know the order in which I have to put my clothes on, because if I put my jacket on before I have my suspenders up, then my pants are going to fall down. Right. So there's an order for the madness that is putting your fire gear on. It's exactly the same, thing when it comes to us and the stressors in our life. Because there's going to be stresses that are going to be thrown at you. I can't tell you that every fire is going to be exactly the same, right? Every fire is going to present a little bit different. Every stress in your life is going to be presented a little bit different. But if you're foundational piece of putting your fire gear on exactly the same way every single time, then I'm ready to fight those different challenges that are going to be put before me.
So the drill then takes your emotions out because you've already logically worked the plan.
Yep.
Okay. And it keeps you calm. All right. So it's a settling thing. I know in the schools, we would right off the bat, we would practice fire. We would show our kids what the fire alarm sounded like, right? The first day of school. And then we would start with a practice of a fire drill. And it's different for every classroom, wherever they're located relative to the outside egress, okay? And so the idea there is, okay, we start practicing. Well, I've talked many times, the very first drill, we had 600 kids in our building, and we would typically take 4 or 5 minutes to get 600 kids out, the very first drill.
Sure.
And it was usually chaotic. Some kids laughing, some kids pushing, some kids crying, just depends on how they're all wired, okay? By usually a month into it, we're getting 600 kids out of the building in under a minute. Nothing's changed other than regulation. They're all regulating and self-regulating because they're no longer panicked and being run by emotions, which are extremely stressful. And so we practice recognizing our alarms, and then we build drills to get through those, okay? And so with your own life, if you are finding yourself getting angry, agitated, frustrated, depressed. Guys, these are alarms. And if you're not building a drill, okay, so one of my drills when I'm angry, one of my drills is to actually take a break, take a time out. In other words, I just need to go to the gym and lift. I need to go out in the yard and work because I have to regulate and pull myself out of the emotional state so my thinking brain can come back. Oftentimes in the Christian world, we talk about the idea of going away and meditating or praying. Prayer and meditation happens in a logical, calm part of the brain.
Yep.
Okay. It's a great problem solving part of the brain. But if I'm all fired up, I'm not going to be able to get there.
So good. Yeah, I mean, we're obviously talking to you guys, you strong dads out there. I think this is also something, early on with your kids, that, as we've been talking about, having a map, having a vision for what you want and kind of where you want to go to hopefully, negate some of the confusion. I think the same can be said about our kids, that early on, we have to be the ones that are going to create that vision for our kids.
Yep.
Again, just putting our kids out there and say, just go find your way to wherever is not doing them any benefit. So as we learn and talk about, the confusion that is going on in our life, also understand that there's that similar confusion, maybe even more with our kids. And as a strong dad, it is our responsibility to come alongside them and instill a vision for our kids. Let them know where the map is coming from. Let them know that you're going to be right alongside them as they're trying to figure out, as they have some confusion, you're going to be there holding their hand. So just again, I know a lot of the show is about you as a man, but man, I think that there's so much that goes into the confusion aspect of it, as we talked about in that previous show with our kids and the confusion of this world. Man, you have to be ready to come alongside them and instill that vision with them.
One of the greatest ways that you can actually learn your own drills is by practicing with your kids.
Yeah.
Because now you have greater accountability.
Yep.
Your kids are watching you and you're helping your kids. And so I think that's a great point that you bring up. Like, hey guys, let's do this together.
Yeah.
Okay. The last thing, and it's the final thing. I mean, if I'm going to ultimately get better and better at doing my life is, and you worked this or gave this word out just a second ago, is the idea of learn and be coachable. Okay. You got to be coachable. The only way you can be coachable is when you're in the logical, calm side of your brain.
Yeah.
And so, when we adopted our kids, they were very, they were challenged to regulate and calm themselves down.
Yeah.
And our youngest, man, I'm telling you, a spitfire, absolute spitfire. And you would go try to play a game of foursquare, basketball, toss ball, whatever it was. And I mean, as soon as something didn't go quite the way he thought it should go, he would go ballistic. Okay, so he was the youngest. He ruled the roost of his siblings, because that's how he found himself reestablishing some control and getting things back the way he wanted them. But it was very difficult for anybody to be around him.
Yeah.
And so then there would be fighting and feuding. What we had to teach him was how to calm down. All right. Listen, bud, you're fired up right now. How about let's go do something different? How about you go take a seat over here? How about take a time out? Guys, it's taken a long time. And we can tease with him now about it.
Yeah.
But he has a hard time regulating because he was in so much trauma and survival early on. Like, it was minute to minute in his brain of survival. And so now he's finally starting to be able to take a deep breath and to be able to hear and to listen. And that is where you, as a strong dad, you as a man, that's where you actually get better. Where you go, well, what worked for me?
Yeah.
What didn't work for me? What can I do better? What should I do differently? This is how we get better and better at arriving to the place that we want to be in our life, by being able to say, what can we do better?
Yeah. I mean, in closing with this show, man, I just think the bottom line here is these stresses of our life, the confusion that's going to go on, they're going to be there. We have to understand that there's no escaping that, right? But similar to what you were just saying, Merle, it's just like I try and teach my girls this all the time. It's like, you're allowed to have those emotions, but what are you going to do with those emotions? How are you going to turn those and kind of essentially halt your emotion a little bit to bring the logical side back in to try and work through this. So no different, when it comes to the stresses and the confusion of our life. How are we going to respond? What, are we going to prepare ourselves? Do these fire drills that we were talking about, in order to put yourself in a place where you do have that vision, where you do have that roadmap that's going to get you through this thing that we all call life, and try and, minimize our confusion, because ultimately, minimizing and getting rid of the depression, which is a long-term confusion, is going to be ideal.
Yeah. I mean, just a great point. I'm sitting here thinking about in the Christian life, and a lot of us, myself included, push back against this because I don't like to do it. But there are what we call disciplines, Christian disciplines.
Yeah.
And the Christian disciplines, whether it's prayer, meditation, reading, quiet time, whatever it is actually my practicing of a drill so that I can keep my head calm, so that I can work my way through these things. And so teaching yourself these disciplines or doing these practices help you stay on a solid path to where you want to go. So, I mean, hopefully, guys, this is valuable stuff, not just to you personally, like how I can get better and better at avoiding the confusion, which leads to depression. With the depression, with that pressure on top of it, creates that anxiety. Hopefully, these are some things that you find helpful. If there's anything that you feel like, man, I'm kind of in the middle of this mix right now and it's not going well, reach out to us. I have a very long story of my own being stuck at the four-way intersection in the middle of it with horns beeping all over, okay? and those things aren't going away. In other words, I still go out and drive every day. And so traffic does not always do what I want it to do. But I have had to learn, and I'm constantly learning, how do I do this better so that I can get where I want to go.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope you guys are having a good week, man. Thanks so much for Quality Auto Mart and Case Outdoor Solution for coming alongside of us. Really do appreciate them. Check them out. Let them know we sent you up there. Man, yeah, I hope this meant something to you. Share the heck out of it. We love to come alongside you as you guys wrestle through this just like we are. So, yeah, good.
Go out there and be a strong dad. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.